wide for the panel that I intended to cut. Again, I'm doing that intentionally to allow for a little bit of leeway on the sizing so I can truncate them down to the exact cord and root lengths that we want for our phone. Now that I set that on there, the larger foam blocks like this won't shift around so much as they're being cut, but it's a good idea to put a nice light weight on the top of your phone. I should note here that rulers and weights can be found just to the left of the foam cutters. There's a drawer over there that has weights in them. There's a measurements drawer of rulers. Make sure to clean up after yourself and put things away in their proper drawers when you're done. Once we set that on there, I've got my weight in the proper location. This foam block is less high, so I'm not going to have the issue of the wire moving up and over the top or running into my weight. I should be fine there. So give me one last look over and saying, okay, I've rewound my G-code. I'm centered at 0. Visually, I can see that I'm at the home location. I can go ahead and turn on my power because I'm actually cutting something, so this is the only time it should be on, and hit cycle start. So as that begins to go, I'm going to keep an eye on this still. I will never leave the room while the foam cutter is moving or while the hot wire is on. We don't want it to cause any unfortunate fires or accidents. You'll also notice I'm wearing safety glasses during this demonstration. We do want you to be using safety glasses while using these tools. They are CNC machines, and although it seems like a lot of it's out of the way or it's just touching your hands, the wire has been known to snap due to the heat or due to people stressing the wire, and so either the wire can come up and hit you or it could still be hot as it hits you and burn you. So safety glasses are always a good idea as we move through this. So it's gone through and it's done its up and down heating of the wire. It's going to move over the top of the phone. I've got that space there built in of 1 centimeter. Ideally for the weights, if I had them in the way or for my test sections before, I would have increased that even further. It's going to come down and start cutting out my spar. I can measure right here. That's going to be about 10.5 to 11 centimeters for my trailing edge. Which may or may not be good. I can't remember exactly what value I put in there. Another thing to note is that as you cut spar holes, you want to embed them far enough into your wing so that as the wire is cutting out that hole, it's going to burn probably a larger hole than what you've specified in your design. And the hole will be nice. The hole that goes in and out of will also be rather large. So it's best to try to make that really as small as possible or as deep into the thickest part of your wing as you possibly can. So here I can see the foam, it's beginning to cut. It's going to go in and cut out the whole wing. I'm going to stay here and keep an eye on it as we go and make sure that it doesn't do anything that I don't expect, anything that didn't turn up throughout the rest of the tests that I conducted. While it's going through that, another thing I'm going to mention is that once we are done, we need to do a couple things, which is, first of all, like I said before, turn off the hot wire. We want to always make sure that's off. Once you're done with Mach 3, go ahead and 0 it and hit go to home before you close out the machine, because oftentimes it says fixture save and students will say yes when it's at some weird location, which is why we need to re-0 it each time. But if you can reduce that if you go to 0 and hit fixture save each time. Close out Mach 3. Once everything is turned off, then you can go ahead and turn off the power strip, which is here on the left-hand side of the computer, behind the computer, just like we did before. A good way to tell if everything is off is, first of all, the power supply should be off, the wire should be cold, and you shouldn't hear any hissing coming from the stepper motors. As the hot wire cuts through foam and people do these different test sections, it's possible that the hot wire will be a little bit gunked up with some residue of other foam scraps. So it's okay to take a scrap of foam like our test piece here and clean the wire off by, when the wire is on and hot, you run this piece of foam down the length of the wire. We don't want to pull it off to the side or pull it up because that will stress the wire and break it. But if you kind of run just gently down the length of it when the hot wire is on, it can kind of clean off some of the thicker globs of residue that build up on the wire. Finally, as you're doing all these tests and cuts, you will come up with a lot of little scrap and little pieces that come off right here. make sure to take the brush, clean off the area, try to leave it cleaner than we found it. It'll really build up with a lot of little bits of gunk if everyone just leaves their little small pieces of scrap as they go. If you have large pieces of foam that you're not going to be using, typically they need to be about this size or larger. Those you can put underneath the table for other students to use in the future. If they're not that size or larger, if you cannot cut a wing out of the foam, just throw it away. Even if it seems like a large piece of foam, just throw it away. Here it's done cutting. So the first thing I'm going to do before I test it is come over here and turn off the wire. I'll see that my G-code has gone to the end of my code. So I'm going to go ahead and click rewind just in case I need to run that again. I'm going to also make sure that we're all zeroed at the home position. Once all that is done and turned off, now I can come back over here and actually measure the length of my cord and see if I like it. Remove the weight. And I'll pull out my wing. So now we can see there's that nice hole that I cut for my spar right there. If I have a spar prepared, I can just stick it right down into there. And I can see that my span is longer than what I intended. And so I can measure along here to find where the cord is at the length it's supposed to be. With my tip cord, I remember I designed it to 150 millimeters. So that's about right here along my wing. And then my root was supposed to be 200 millimeters, which is about right there. So one thing I can do on this is I'm going to mark those distances where I've got a root of 250. I can do either with a pen or just kind of crease it down the line with my ruler. We've got a tip cord of 150, so roughly right along here. Now I've just kind of creased it on there so that I can see where that lines up. I could use an X-Acto knife and cut it, or I can use the hot wire itself. If I use the hot wire, I can move my other pieces out of the way. I'm going to come over and use the arrow keys to go straight up and straight down. Straight up to get the foam right where I want it to be. I'm going to turn on the wire, lower the wire to cut, make a nice clean straight cut where I want it to be. So using the arrow keys, I'm going straight up. The hot wire is still